Hello and welcome to Masquerade Breach, Season 3, Episode 9.
Oh my god, are we almost done?
We are almost done the season. We are very slowly getting there.
Wow!
Chipping away at it one episode at a time.
Today we're talking about Emo Dracula, also known as Dracula 2000. This is like peak 2000s emo. I don't know. Let's talk about it.
Why don't you introduce yourself first?
Oh, I'm Blazewing.
I'm Catherine Cosplays, otherwise known as Krisha.
Did you get it? Did we hear me?
We got the E at the end.
Oh, so I'm just E today.
And I'm your dark lover, I guess. I don't know. I'm Oceanus Veritas, also known as Cam.
We're talking about Dracula 2000 today. It's just going to be that kind of day, I guess. But
And remember, don't tell the Camarilla. Otherwise, they might cause me to crash out again.
who wants to start?
All right, I might start. Go ahead. All right, so we have, when we open up this, we see what looks like a collector of very antiquities.
Nope.
No, that's not it.
We open up on the Demeter.
Wow, the Demeter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but then we end up in the
And then we end up in the antiquities
guy
afterwards.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
we open
yeah,
up with the
yeah.
Demeter.
Yeah, the Demeter, I guess. There was credits in there. I don't count that.
Oh, all right. Go ahead.
So obviously we get the main character, essentially the guy that everyone knows, Van Helsing. He's older, way older. Apparently he has a daughter. Apparently he's been keeping himself alive using Dracula's blood, but we don't know necessarily that it's Dracula. We just see him doing it with things with syringes and such.
He's draining a leech with a syringe is what we see.
Yeah, that's what we see. Then we have this one guy, an apprentice guy. We don't really care about him. He's kind of a off the way other person. Bunch of thieves come, break in, get killed, drag off a coffin because they think there's money in it. They think they can resell it too for whatever it's worth. Blood gets in it, of course. Dracula ends up coming out and kills the rest of them, turns them into vampires, that kind of thing. And then we see the apprentice, or we see Van Helsing going, I've got to do this on my own, no police, blah, blah, blah. And he gets on a plane and he leaves. Mind you, the thieves had gotten on a plane and crashed because, of course, they did. Then we saw essentially the daughter, who apparently was having dreams about this dude like every night. We don't know why. Until we find out that the reason is because of the fact that she's gotten Dracula's blood through apparently her father, who apparently had her. We don't know where the mother is. Mother isn't even mentioned really. And then of course, Dracula is like, she's mine now. And Van Helsing's like, no, take me instead. And he goes, no, my vengeance must be more. And of course, eventually they end up getting into where she finally goes, okay, bite me. And he goes, yes. And of course, the other guy's going, no, don't do it. And a bunch of other like hot girls climbing sides the walls and whatnot are like, what makes her so different? Oh, that's what makes her so different. And then, of course, essentially, Van Helsing is essentially going, oh, I died, avenge me. And of course, his apprentice ends up fighting him while essentially ends up having to fight one of the harem of women that apparently Dracula must have at all times. And of course, the daughter of Van Helsing ends up eventually hanging Dracula and going, this is how you die. And then, of course, they end up going through the whole thing, and she ends up surviving, and he ends up surviving. And she goes, I don't know what I am, but I'm going to make a name for myself. And then it goes to credits.
Again, didn't we watch the same movie?
Yes. Why, you didn't get all of that?
So the
was
the mother is dead. First off, it is said when Mary is having confession that her mom, basically she says like, my mom visited this church every day and had confession every day the last couple months of her life. So her mom recently passed. I think it's just so interesting because Mary is like 25. So he had a child. In terms of immortality, fairly recently. Also, we are way past the time of needing leeches. Is there truly no better way of getting Dracula blood out of Dracula than with leeches?
It's not the getting it out of Dracula. Getting it out of Dracula is not why they use the leeches. They use the leeches because the leeches filter the blood.
Oh.
They dilute it.
Okay.
They remove, I guess, more negative properties of it. They leave it with kind of the longevity and without the infectious quality, which gives him the longer life. It's also a nod back to like ancient medical practices.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Also, given that Van Helsing was using them to stay alive, it's very plausible that he was alive when they were still using leeches and has just been continuing to use them.
That is also possible. I mean, habits are hard to change once you get past a certain age, right?
I mean, if it works, yeah.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So, what do you guys think? Like, let's talk about it.
I think it was exquisitely well done. It was incredibly well done. I think that is such... First of all, there was so much imagery about like using like religious imagery as well as others, and it basically took like the classic Dracula story we all know and love and like turned it on its head, because we all know what happens. We know the gist. We know the vibes. We're here for the vibes. We love the vibes. We know the vibes. But they were able to create this whole new storyline of like, what if someone was born with Dracula blood? And that was incredible. Like, her entire life, she would have these dreams and these visions of being in the dark and being trapped.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, Like, it's that connection. And the one thing that, like, Dracula was so wanting desperately is he wanted blood of his own. He wanted life of his own. That's desperately what he wanted. The blood of my blood, life of my life, flesh of my flesh. So finally having life be passed on, that, no wonder why he was like obsessed. That is literally all Dracula ever wanted, was life of his own. I think Gerard did a fantastic job. The only thing is, obviously, they could not get the Scottish accent out. They couldn't. They tried. They really tried. They were like, please, could you at least do British? And he was like, Scotland forever! Like, there was no getting around it. Like, literally, they did Phantom of the Opera, and he was Phantom. Nope, couldn't get rid of the Scottish accent. I think I've seen so many of his movies because my mom, like, is a huge Gerard Butler stan. He can't do it.
Myriad in our chat.
But,
sorry, go ahead. Finish your thought.
So, to make a long story short, I think incredibly well done. I'm so glad we watched it, and this is in, like, my top 5. I'm so glad I rewatched it. Because I was telling you guys how, like, I saw this before when I was younger, but I never, like, really paid attention. It was so masterfully done. And, yeah, I'm done.
Myriad in our audience says, questions whether or not the debauchery was because he wanted to, or was it more about showing the finger? That's a question. This movie has so much going for it. Let's move on to someone else.
Okay, so I really love the movie. It had a lot of little, like, intricate pieces, but I do want to point out that I'm highly offended because a lot of movies, the main character in a lot of vampire stuff seems to have a best friend named Lucy. And I am very upset and offended because I don't have a best friend named Lucy, which means I am not a main character.
Doesn't mean you're not a main character, just means you're not a main character in a vampire movie.
Yeah, hello, how many vampire friends do I have and I'm not even a main character? The disrespect. Anyway, so I actually really did enjoy it. There were a few things where I was like, WTF, mate. But for the most part, I thought it was really fun. Like, the fact that Mary is just, like, going through her life and, like, she really reminds me of a lot of us who have mental illness, because she just, like, goes through these things and then has her screaming, and then she's just like, okay, let's go get coffee, or okay, let's go to work. Like, let's just go on with our lives. She masks it. And it to me, I'm like, every time it happens, I'm like, how many times in my life have I, like, gone through a mental breakdown and then just gone to work and been like, you know what, it's okay. And then when someone asks me, just be like, it's okay. Yeah, no, my life is falling apart, but it's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it. You know, like, it was, to that point, it felt too real to me just because I know I've done that. I'm just like, oh my God, yeah. And, like, every time it happens, it's just like, I'm just going to go back to work now.
So,
like, that was so real. I was like, yeah, I get it. But also the way she talks about, like, she hasn't talked to her dad in, like, 12 years. Now her mom, like, kept moving her around and stuff. And I'm like, I bet it's because the mom knew the dad was creepy, but it just took way too long to figure it out. Because let's admit it, Van Helsing was a bit creepy. Yeah,
he was a product.
Like,
He was a product of another time.
Yeah, but also creepy.
Because he was a product of another time. Literally, 100 years ago. Most things 100 years ago and normal behaviors from 100 years ago would be extremely creepy today.
If we even look back in our own lives from like what we grew up, how we grew up with certain slang words and stuff, and how now a lot of that's offensive, it makes sense. I get it.
I have one quick question for you, Marley.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you are offended because you don't have a best friend named Lucy, despite the circles that a lot of your friends run in. Has it ever occurred to you to change your name to Lucy?
Well, no, because then I'm the best friend that gets to die first.
No, you're the best friend. It doesn't necessarily mean you get to die first.
Lucy always gets bitten first. I need a sacrifice.
So change Love's name to Lucy.
Offended. He's offended.
Vampire pug?
God.
Anyways,
She's a meatloaf. She's a bully Frenchie mix.
Ocean, what have you got?
I do have to point out, Marley. Did you ever think that you might be a part of a werewolf protagonist line and not a vampire one?
But just because I am one doesn't mean I have to be one.
But you're a protagonist in that one.
Okay, but I haven't memorized all their names yet to know if I fit in yet.
You totally fit in, I promise. So this movie, it's an okay movie. I'll put it that way. This movie gives a trope of the original. It definitely has a lot of callbacks in a way that is fresh and new for 2000, which was 25 years ago, if we're going to be dead honest. And in it, there are a lot of very symbolic messages and subliminal messages in it that give it that nuance of it being well read. It will tickle it will tickle the avid fan or the fanatic that loves a vampire movie, that loves vampires. It has the lore, it has what they can, what they have for their weaknesses, what their strengths are. It definitely provides an aesthetic and atmosphere that most vampire movies today sort of gloss over or even overlook to tell their own narratives. This one follows almost true in a way where you have, like, for example, him going after a girl named Lucy. You have Mary, who is taking the part of Mina, really, if you want to get technical on it, and how that all seems to just kind of coincide with the original lore of Dracula in a modern setting. It is as if it would be today if it was happening today. And I think I think they've done this a couple of times with this movie. What I feel off about is that they gave a backstory that pulls from a different timeline. Instead of, like, say, where VTM is with Cain, this pulls that Dracula was actually Judas, and the connotations of why the silver is such a weakness. I think it highlights that a lot. And I think that is important because it doesn't, any other time or any other story, they just say it happens, it is. It doesn't go into why these things are their weaknesses. This movie does. It brings it through the nuance and understanding and a lot of the backstory. This movie has come a long way from its original sourced material, and I think it has a good marker for where we as society see these type of movies.
Okay, so told you guys before we got into the movie, this movie holds one of my favorite tropes of all time. Dracula is Judas, or Judas is the original vampire. When I sat down and I started fleshing out things for world building with my vampire worlds, Judas being the original vampire is in the original incarnation of it. Like, this is huge for me. It brings through all of that imagery. It tells why he can't die. It shows the weakness of the silver and why that's so important. I mean, the 30 pieces of silver, for instance, the fact that he literally betrayed what was supposed to be God on earth, and he was spurned for it. I get the whole Cain thing in the first murder. This was a fresh new take when I first saw it. This was gorgeous. The imagery in this movie is also absolutely extremely well done. But what gets me are the sets. You guys know me, I'm huge for aesthetics. The opening scene with the Demeter pulls me in right off the bat, drags me in. We're on a boat. Look at how much time they spent crafting that single set. Look at the detail they put into it. And then we jump into we jump into Van Helsing's office. Stone, cold, brick. We see the thieves coming in. We see the chambers and not the dungeon, but his vault, basically. It's got that old-timey ancient feeling to it. It's got that steampunk feeling to it, but it's also got that splash of like modern day. For me, this movie is like peak 2000s. I think for me, this is probably one of my favorite iterations of Dracula, second only to Dracula Dead and Loving It.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
it does have that.
Dracula Dead and Loving It. I will stand by this. Dracula Dead and Loving It is the best version of Dracula that we have.
I honestly think it's because it makes Dracula digestible.
Yes.
Because one reason why a lot of people don't read Dracula is because of the language. And it makes, in Dracula Dead and Loving It, makes it digestible. And I'm like, oh, go ahead.
Not just that. Dracula's supposed to be a monster, like an absolute monster. Has no qualms about anything. His original source material comes from Vlad the Impaler.
Mm-hmm.
That's what inspired, part of what inspired Dracula, along with Carfax Abbey, like that whole thing. No, not Carfax Abbey.
Carmela,
and there was the Abbey in England. Was what kickstarted the idea. Can't remember the name of it, but
the insane asylum, right?
No, the Abbey. There's ruins in England that are actually, it was like the original inspiration or kickstarted the idea, and then all of these ideas kind of took flight. I think we needed more of this. Not just Dracula. I would have sat here and watched a whole series of movies playing on these ideas. These are some of my favorite ideas in vampire lore of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Myriad says, I like the approach, the spin on the idea of why for the hangups. Absolutely. And also says, I wish it hadn't been, I just wish it hadn't been Dracula. See, I get that, and I get why they went for Dracula, because it's a big name.
Mm-hmm.
I want more.
I also loved the practical effects.
Yes.
They used basically little to no CGI. Pretty much like everything was practical. And also the eyes. The red when they're intense and they're feeding, and like when he first comes out of the coffin, they're black because he's starving. Like that is incredible. The teeth were really good. I only had two problems with the practical effects. is because in the beginning, when they're in the treasure trove and he leans over the table and the spikes come down, I'm sorry, but that looks like a mannequin. That looks like a mannequin slumped over. It's not good. And I was like, oh, dang. Like,
Whoever.
There. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, so there's something about this movie that the transformative aspects of vampires that we've seen in trope and B movie and B-rated movies is that they turn into this monstrous thing.
Mm-hmm.
When you see Dracula, he doesn't do that. I think it actually brings a bit of a chilling down the spine a bit more that his facade, his physical features don't really change all that much. All it is like his eyes and his teeth. That's it. And I think that gives a projection that it could be anybody. It could be that the monstrosity has the same face as us. And I think that's what really drives home why this movie is believable in a lot of ways when it comes to that the monster is just as much holds the same appearance as us, is the same as us, and thus that makes it that much more intimate and resonates a lot easier with us in understanding that monsters don't have to look like monsters. We can be just as much monstrous as any of them.
Marley, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts, I agree that I do appreciate that they left the monster to be the inner monster, because that is what everyone relates to Judas Iscariot, is that the evil is on the inside. None of the other disciples knew that there was any evil intent, and they kept that in this version of Dracula, that if he's going to be that way, the evil is on the inside. I will say that as much as I like that they didn't do like a bunch of CGI, because when this movie was made, they weren't as good with CGI as they are now.
Correct.
But like, so a lot of the movies we've seen from this area of time have been a little questionable on that. But I will also say the downside is that it feels like the fight scenes take too long. Like when they're jumping, because they're using, the ropes to move them around and stuff. That last fight scene before she goes over the building and everything, when they're just hopping around and like flipping each other, it was slow. They did not allow gravity to help at all. It was like space flipping, and it was funny because like a lot of times when they would like jump or try to move fast, it looked like they were trying to like hop on the moon. Like they were just, it was really like. So to me, like I understand using practical effects. I understand that the CGI was not up to par at that time, and I applaud them for pretty much not going there. But also, it was kind of goofy watching them fight. Like if they were not on the ground doing the moves, anytime they had to jump or in this case hop, it was hilarious, and it was slow motion, and I get that. I didn't like one part because that just gave me the ick. The leech eyeball thing. That part, I was like, I get it. I understand why people would be like, oh yeah, we're breaking boundaries on what's creepy. Yay. But I cannot. And I'm one of those people that is okay touching my own eyeball. Like I can put in contacts and touch my eyeball and not get weirded out. But anything else going near my eyeball is disrespectful. It is disrespectful. So that part got me, and I was just like, did you have to? But also looking back at who was playing the character that it happened to, I was kind of like, oh, of course.
I will point out this, Marley, is that while yes, there is horror, there is a subgenre of horror known as body horror, and they obviously wanted to put a shout out to it because that's exactly what that was body horror.
Body horror is some of my favorite horror, actually.
Yeah, it's one of mine too. When it comes down to body horror like that, it has to be done impeccably, because otherwise it just looks like gore, and if it looks messy, it is messy. But if you get in there and you can actually tell a story with it just a little bit, just to push the bounds, push the envelope, and pull back, that gives a lot of credit to the director, actually.
Whoever they got to make the fangs for this movie knew what the fuck they were doing. The fangs looked like they were custom made for each person to fit into their mouth and look like they belong there. Like, that to me is absolutely wild. I want to know who was the fangsmith for this movie. On top of that, when it comes to Dracula in this movie, you know he's evil. You know he's like the monster. He's the big bad. But he's suave about it. He is extremely suave, extremely silver-tongued, charismatic. He walks through the music store. Everybody stops and stares at him and turns to stare at him as he walks by. Extremely charismatic. He has that pull. But if you look at everything, if you look at all of the children that he creates, if you look at all of the spawn that he creates, they have no free will. They have no sense of self. They mimic it, but they have lost that sense of humanity. Dracula has not. The only person that could compare to Dracula is Mary, because she was born with his blood. And you also see that when she's turned as well. She doesn't lose that spark, that sense of humanity. She doesn't lose her ability to think for herself. That is absolutely wild. I think that was beautifully done. And that for me is one of my favorite parts of the movie. It's the small details, it's the sets, it's the feel of the movie itself. So, with that, let's go ahead and talk about worst scene, worst moment. Let's start with Marley.
Oh, you know mine. Mine was, I'm okay with leeches. I'm totally cool. I was cool watching Van Helsing with the leech. It was the leech in the eyeball. Disrespect. And the moonwalk fights. No, that's it. Those are the only two things that I was like, maybe no.
Krisha?
I have none. I love the whole thing.
Really?
I love the entire thing. I thought the entire thing was perfect. I think it is great exactly the way it is. I have no complaints.
Damn.
I think it's perfect. Yeah.
Ocean.
We're discussing Dracula 2000.
There are a couple of scenes.
Yeah.
One, I don't understand why they didn't specify why Van Helsing erected his collection around a cave. First off, because that's what that was. It was a cave that was sealed, and that's where Dracula was. That's why it was vaulted and everything. It doesn't explain that he had built that, even though he built it. He built it, because Who else would know that place so intimately? Him. He's the only one, and it doesn't explain that. That bothers the crap out of me when it comes to that. The traps set seem very much Dracula and not Van Helsing. And like even when he was when Dracula was trapped in the coffin, those traps were not de-rigged or unrigged or removed at all. They were untouched. For how many years? How many centuries? Ridiculous. I have a problem with again the moonwalk stuff. The I'ma jump in and that's the slowest fight scene I've ever seen. No one's taking hits properly. It seemed again pretty the fight scene seemed choreographed as best and not good choreography. It wasn't fast paced. It wasn't even sped up like they could have done. And I gotta say the ending kind of when she's hanging Dracula seemed unrealistic to me. Like where you couldn't see it in his expression at all, any remorse, even though he was trying for it. And that was my personal gripe about particularly that scene. Could have sold it better. I'm sorry.
I've been trying to find something with this movie. I've been picking it apart, looking at it from every possible angle I can. And I'm going to have to say I cannot find a part of this movie I did not like. So, let's go with favorite scene. We're going to start with Marley.
Okay, my favorite scene is silly. So after Apprentice finds Mary and is like, I need to talk to you about your dad, and Mary is like, runs away, right? Because she's over here like, Lucy, and looking for Lucy. And then she takes off, and then that guy walks up to him, and it turns out to be a vampire. Rawr. Okay, so he drops the canister that has those spikes in it, and the vampire picks it up, and he's like, what is this? His hand starts smoking. He drops it, and the way he says, ow! And then he goes back to the fight. But pause moment. I was rolling. I was like, oh my gosh, that's why I can't be a vampire, because I would be doing that. I'd be grabbing the thing and then being like, oh. And now I have to hurt you more. Like, that's how it felt. Like, now I'm obligated to fight you because now I'm hurt on top of you being my enemy.
Krisha.
Any scene with Mary and Dracula. They have such good chemistry. They really picked two incredible actors to play these two people. And their chemistry is insane. Like these two people are connected by fate. And you can see it. Like, and they don't even know why they're connected until much later in the movie. But there's this like undeniable, like they cannot resist the pull. They have to find each other. And that was that is gorgeous. How that was done was beautiful. So any scene, honestly, with just the two of them was great. Well done. Clap. Clap, 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 clap. Loved it. Honestly, I wish I could have more. Like, I would just watch the two of them forever because that was incredibly done.
Ocean.
There are a couple of scenes that I really enjoy. One is unorthodox coming from me, but it's a bit of a comic relief thing when Dracula meets Lucy, and he does his Dracula thing. He does his, his seducing, his seduction, and all she can think of to say is, "I was named after peanuts." I thought that was a good one. Like, he was like so smooth, and then she opens her mouth to respond, and all she can think of is to say that her mother named her after a Peanuts character. It was just that it strikes you in such a way that it's just comical, and I think that was needed for that type of movie because a lot of it's very broody and dark and emo and all that. Obviously, the actual opening of the coffin was another one where Dracula actually comes out with black eyes and feeds and ends up going after all of them and essentially crashing the airplane. I think that was a bit of genius when it comes to that scene specifically, that it shows the frenzied vampire. It shows the tension and danger that could potentially happen to our main protagonists. And of course, the scene where after he's bitten after he's bitten Mary, and she turns and just how the turntables on Dracula, where one of the brides loses her head, literally, and then she turns right around and stabs him and goes, "Don't you dare," blah, 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 that kind of thing. It was good. It was good narrative. It was good dialogue, and I think in it was a lot of tension where it's like you think that she's gone the moment he bites her because everyone else was. But because of the fact that she already had his blood is kind of the paramount understanding that she's immune to the mind altering and the loss of free will. I think that was a brilliant touch.
I think for me, my favorite scene was when he rises from his coffin on the plane and he's like slaughtered people. She turns to see him in the doorway. And for a moment, neither of them can figure out what's going on. And then he starts to put two and two together. She's still kind of in the dark, but she knows it's something that she's been yearning for most of her life. I mean, she's terrified out of her skull over this. When she's backed up against...
Oh,
you what?
Sorry. And this is also the first time she's ever seen him.
Yes.
Because she's only seen the dark.
When she's backed up against, I think it was the dresser, and she's on the floor because he's walking towards her, he's stalking her. And then it was Lucy came into the bedroom and walked right through him, that misting effect that they got, and broke the illusion like that. That was gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Also, I'm not going to lie, Jerry Ryan is kind of a favorite of mine from Star Trek Voyager. And the playing in that scene of where she's getting her throat cut open, right? And the cameraman doesn't know what's going on. The fact that they played with Dracula and that he actually can't be seen in recordings or mirrors or anything like that, I love that. Normally, it's like a silver-backed mirror doesn't hold the reflection. I love the fact that they translated that into modern technology and he just can't be seen by any surface like that whatsoever. Yeah. I'm sorry, it's the feel of the movie for me. They got so much right with this movie, I think. All right, so with that, let's do ratings. You guys know how this works? 1 to 5? Love it? Hate it? Recommend it? What do you think? Marley?
My rating is gonna be 4 out of 5 because some parts of it definitely did not age well, but they're still fun to watch. And I definitely recommend it. It would be something that I would watch, but I would put it in with my shark movies. So it would be a fun one, but not exactly, hey, let's watch this super cool movie. It would be on Marley's movie night. So out of 5, I'd watch it with anybody as long as they talk during the movie, because that's important.
Krisha.
You already know. It's a 5 out of 5 for me. It's so juicy. And like the one thing this movie gets right is that vampiric seduction. Like once you're, and also just like, oh, it's just so juicy. It's so rich, the feel of this movie. So yeah, it's a 5 out of 5 for me.
Ocean.
I'm probably going to be one of the lowest ones on this. It's a 3 out of 5 for me. And the reason being is because, again, the effects are great. They are. The narrative is great. But there are a lot of things about this movie that just don't quite make the cut, that I've seen better, and I've felt that the story follows very close to its original lore. It does give a new feel to it, but again, it aged not bad now, 25 years later. But it also has its moment of being like, well, they didn't really need to have this in it. Or, you know, it just didn't flow as well as what I'm used to. So it's a 3 out of 5 for me. But the seduction was great.
Movie gets a 5. Hands down. I'm sorry. This is like one of the better ones that I've seen so far. And I mean, I think I've only given a 5 out of 5 to like 3 movies that we've watched, this one included. So I don't feel so bad about it. I'm looking for something to like knock a half a point off, and I can't. I'm sorry. I can't. It gets me at all the right places. I got nothing else other than that. So
It was a good movie, you know?
One thing I found very funny is whoever did Mary's teeth, they didn't do a good job with the size of her mouth, because you can see her lip popping over the fangs.
Yep.
And that was just the one moment where, like, it really took me out of the moment. Like, I was like, oh, come on. You could have done better.
Dracula's bride with an overbite.
One of the things about that is that I'm wondering if it's because she has too small of a mouth.
Could be.
I think so.
It could also...
But also, the one thing with Mary is just, like, with all the other women, Dracula is so rough with them. With anyone, obviously. It is only with Mary that he's very, very soft. Like, when he actually is, like, with her and, like, embracing her. Like, obviously, getting to her, he's like, all right, this building, bye. Like, but when he's actually with her, there's such, like, a tenderness because, like, this one is mine. Like, I want to care for this one. I want to, like, be joined with this one. So that extra little detail, just loved.
So, that brings us pretty much to the end of this episode. You have our ratings, you have our thoughts, you have our worst and favorite scenes, for those of us that had them. Guys, this has been season 3, episode 9, Dracula 2000. Next up, we have season 3, episode 10, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. This is going to be a wild ride, because I know people have a lot to say about this movie. For those of you that haven't seen it, be aware it is not a vampire as the main protagonist, so just, yeah. I got nothing else. For this episode of Masquerade Breach, I'm Blazewing.
I am Catherine Cosplays, otherwise known as Krisha.
Marley.
And I'm Oceanus Veritas. Thank you again.
And remember, don't tell the Camarilla. I had a line, and it's gone. I guess the Camarilla
They
stole
might.
it.
Oh man, not again. Maybe it's the SI this time. Who knows?